Alchemy has always been a well-kept secret, not because it was hidden, but because not everyone was ready to see it. Since ancient times, masters like Hermes, Trismegistus, Paracelsus, and Fulcanelli knew that hidden knowledge could not be handed to those who weren't prepared. That's why alchemy isn't learned through words, but through direct experience, a process of transmuting consciousness. Not everyone makes it this far. In the Kybalion, one of the most enigmatic texts of the Hermetic tradition, the ancient masters classified seekers of knowledge into 3 groups. The unawakened are those who live on autopilot, trapped in the illusions of the material world. They don't question, they don't perceive the mysteries around them, and they go through life without realizing they are inside an invisible prison. The awakened but not initiated begin to sense that there is something beyond the visible. They seek answers, study, investigate, but they still remain in the realm of theory. Crossing the first threshold requires more than intellectual knowledge. It demands direct experience. And then there are the true initiates. These individuals don't just understand alchemy, they live the alchemical process in their own flesh. They face the collapse of identity, internal purification, and the integration of a new consciousness. And for them, 3 portals open. These portals represent challenges that few are willing to face. They are not empty metaphors, nor abstract symbols. They are real experiences of transformation that test the seeker's courage, endurance, and commitment. Crossing the portals means dying to who you were and being reborn into who you have always been. The question isn't whether these portals exist. The question is, are you ready to cross them? The alchemical laboratory, the temple where magic happens. Before crossing the portals, the alchemist needs a laboratory. But forget the idea of a place filled with mysterious vials and ancient scrolls. The true alchemical laboratory isn't outside, it's inside you. The ancients knew that without a prepared space, transformation doesn't happen. No matter how much you want to change, if your mind is chaotic and your emotions are out of control, any attempt at transmutation will be superficial. That's why the first step of the great work isn't crossing the portals, but creating the internal conditions for change to be possible. The alchemical laboratory is the mirror of the alchemist. In the past, this space was physical, filled with essential instruments for the process, but each of these instruments represented something much greater. They weren't just tools, they were symbols of what needed to happen within you. In the old laboratory, the crucible was the container where metals were heated until their impurities were burned away. But in internal alchemy, the crucible is your own mind and heart. Everything you carry, traumas, limiting beliefs, past wounds, are the impurities that need to be burned. If you want to cross the portals, you need to throw all of this into the fire and see what remains. But this burning doesn't happen on its own. It requires an honest look within. What patterns do you repeat without realizing? What fears are keeping you from moving forward? War inside you needs to be dissolved so that something new can be born. Most people want change, but they don't want to let go of what keeps them stuck. They want a new path, but insist on carrying old burdens, and that's why they never move forward. The alchemical crucible teaches that there is no transmutation without destruction. The lead of the ego must be melted down for the gold to emerge, and that hurts. But without this process, there is no evolution. There's no point in placing something in the crucible if there isn't enough heat for the burning to happen. This heat was generated by the athanor, the alchemical furnace, which maintained a stable temperature until the matter began to transform. On an internal level, the athanor represents the fire of will, discipline, and persistence. Without it, the process stops halfway. Think about how many times you've tried to change a habit and given up after a few days. How many times have you started something and not seen it through? That's a clear sign that the fire of the athanor is still weak. If you want to cross the portals, you need to strengthen that fire. You need to learn to keep your energy steady, without getting lost in distractions or giving up at the first obstacle. Now, the first portal awaits. The first portal. The laboratory is ready. The crucible has been prepared. The fire of the Athanor burns steadily, and the alchemist carries a journal to record every transformation, but nothing can be created without something first being destroyed. At this moment, the first portal opens. Nigredo, the black phase of alchemy, the first great test of the initiate, the moment when illusion begins to crumble and truth is revealed, but not in a gentle or comforting way. Nigredo doesn't bring clarity, nor does it bring answers. It brings darkness. It forces the alchemists to face themselves with no masks. The ancient alchemists compared this phase to putrefaction. In the physical laboratory, this was when decaying matter would break down, preparing itself for a new form. In the internal laboratory, Nigredo is the collapse of the old self, the moment when certainties fall apart, comfortable truths become useless, and everything that was once known ceases to make sense. But what does this mean in practice? The destruction of the old self. Every belief that once upheld the alchemist's identity begins to be questioned. What once seemed solid, permanent, and reliable is revealed to be a fragile construct, built on conditioning. Everything you thought about yourself, about life, about the world, collapses. Facing the shadow Nigredo forces the alchemist to confront their deepest fears. Everything that was repressed, ignored, or avoided rises to the surface. Old traumas resurface, negative patterns become undeniable, and the inner darkness manifests mercilessly. There is no escape, total deconstruction. The soul enters a state of chaos. It feels like complete dissolution, as if nothing makes sense anymore. Many refer to this moment as the dark night of the soul, a period of intense confusion and suffering where everything the alchemist once knew fades away. But Nigredo is not a punishment. It is a necessary process. True transformation begins now. The second portal. Nigredo was devastating. Everything the alchemist once knew was undone. The old self crumbled, illusions dissolved, and all that remained was emptiness. But it is precisely from this emptiness that the second portal emerges. Albedo, purification, rebirth. If Nigredo is the dark night of the soul, Albedo is the first ray of light after the storm. It is not yet the gold of final realization, but it is a glimpse of what is to come. Confusion begins to give way to understanding. Chaos reorganizes into a new order. The mind becomes clear, the heart becomes light, and the soul begins to rise. But this phase doesn't happen on its own. It requires the alchemist's active work. If Nigredo was the collapse, Albedo is the reconstruction. But a different kind of reconstruction, one without the impurities of the past, without the distortions of the ego, without the chains of ignorance. What happens in Albedo? Mental clarity. If before everything was foggy, now the alchemist begins to see beyond appearances. The hidden laws of the universe become evident. The connection between life's events starts to make sense. The veils that once obscured vision are lifted, and reality is revealed with greater clarity. What once seemed like coincidence is now understood as synchronicity, emotional balance. The instinctive impulses that once dominated begin to be refined. Blind rage, paralyzing fear, uncontrolled anxiety lose their grip. In their place, serenity emerges. The alchemist learns that not everything requires an immediate reaction, that not every thought must be followed, that silence often holds more power than 1,000 words. The turbulent waters of the psyche calm, reflecting the light like a still lake, the soul's ascension. If Nigredo was a plunge into the abyss, Albedo is the beginning of the ascent. The soul, once trapped in the illusions of the material world, begins to break free. The alchemist realizes they are not just the body, not just the mind, not just emotions. They are something greater, something eternal, something that has always been there but can now be felt more deeply. This transformation is not an instant event. It is a process. What separates those who go through Nigredo and remain stuck in suffering from those who reach Albedo is the ability to integrate the experience of the old self's death and be reborn without carrying the same burdens. The third portal. The light of Albedo has revealed the truth. The mind has cleared, emotions have settled, and the soul has risen. The alchemist now understands the cycles, sees the order behind the chaos, and feels the presence of the hidden gold within. But knowing is not enough. Seeing the light does not mean the journey is over. One last step remains. The third portal awaits. Rubedo, the fire of realization. If Albedo was purification, Rubedo is manifestation. The great work is completed here when the alchemist not only understands but becomes the very embodiment of alchemy. This is the portal that few ever cross. Many reach the clarity of Albedo and grow comfortable, satisfied with the newfound understanding they have gained. But Rubedo demands more. It does not ask for knowledge alone. It demands the total embodiment of transformation. Knowledge must become life. Light must descend into matter. Awakened consciousness must take root in everyday existence. This is the true gold of alchemy. What happens in Rubedo? The union of body, mind, and spirit. The alchemist finally achieves absolute balance. Before, mind and body were in conflict, spirit and matter seemed like opposites. But now, everything is integrated. There is no longer a separation between the internal and the external, between the earthly and the spiritual. Everything is part of the same flow. Duality dissolves, the transcendence of separation. If Nigredo exposed the illusion and Albedo revealed the truth, Rubedo allows the alchemist to live that truth. They realize there is no division between the material and the spiritual, between the visible and the invisible. The world is no longer a game of opposites. Everything is a pulsating unity, and within that unity, they discover their true power, the awakening of conscious creation. This is the moment when the philosopher's gold emerges. The philosopher's stone, which has always been a symbol, now manifests within. The alchemist becomes the creator of their own reality. No longer a prisoner of circumstances, no longer a victim of unconscious cycles. They understand that they have always held this power, but only now, after passing through the three portals, can they fully wield it. The alchemist who crosses Rubedo is no longer the same. They have become what they sought from the very beginning. They are now the great work itself. The key to the great work. The alchemist who crosses Rubedo understands something essential. Transformation never happens in isolation. Nothing in the universe exists separately. Just as the fire of the Ethanol depends on the precise balance between temperature and time, the transmutation of the soul is connected to far greater forces, to the invisible rhythms that govern all existence. The ancient alchemists knew this. That's why they observed the cycles of the stars and their influence on both matter and spirit. Astrology was not just a study of the heavens, but a hidden map of the great work itself. Each phase of alchemical transmutation has its correspondence with the planets. These celestial bodies are not just spheres spinning in space, but points of connection between the microcosm of the alchemist and the macrocosm of the universe. Saturn and led Nigredo. Saturn, the lord of time, governs destruction, limitation, and the structures that must be dissolved. He is the guardian of the first portal, the one who imposes the hardest trials. His metal is lead, heavy, dense, a symbol of ignorance that must be burned away in the alchemical crucible. Moon and silver, Albedo. The moon is the soft light that reflects the sun's brilliance. It rules the waters of the psyche, emotional cycles, and intuition. Its metal is silver, malleable, bright, a mirror that allows the alchemist to see their own evolution. In the portal of Albedo, the mind is purified and learns to reflect truth without distortions. Sun and gold, Rubedo. The sun is the vital force, the flame that illuminates, the fullness of consciousness. Its metal is gold, the perfect, incorruptible substance that represents the peak of the journey. When the alchemist reaches Rubedo, they do not just understand the light, they become it. Planetary cycles do not determine the journey, but they indicate when certain energies are most active. A waxing moon favors the beginning of new processes. A retrograde Saturn brings periods of internal reflection, and the sun's transits activate different aspects of consciousness. Nothing happens by chance. By understanding how the cosmos influences the work, the alchemist learns to move with the rhythms of the universe rather than against them. But transmutation does not happen only on the spiritual level. It occurs within the physical body itself, the true vessel of the work. External alchemy has always mirrored internal alchemy. If the ancients studied the purification of metals, it was because they understood that this process also took place within the human body. The body is a living laboratory where chemical and spiritual forces intertwine. Hormones, substances that regulate our physical and mental states, are directly linked to the alchemical metals. Each one carries a specific frequency connected to an alchemical principle. Iron and adrenaline, Mars and the energy of action. Iron is the metal of Mars, the planet of strength and war. In the body, it is directly linked to blood and oxygenation. When iron is balanced, vital energy flows. When it is lacking, there is weakness, apathy, stagnation. Adrenaline, the hormone of combat and action, activates this flow. The alchemists must learn to channel this force without being consumed by it. Mercury and dopamine, intelligence and mental agility. Mercury is the messenger of the gods, a symbol of quick thinking, communication, and adaptability. In the body, its equivalent is dopamine, the neurotransmitter of motivation, creativity, and the joy of learning. When balanced, it brings clarity and adaptability. But when it is excessive or deficient, the alchemist may fall into restlessness or apathy. Gold and serotonin, the state of happiness and illumination. Alchemical gold is directly linked to serotonin, the substance that regulates well-being and inner harmony. When out of balance, anxiety, constant dissatisfaction, and emptiness arise. But when it is in harmony, the alchemist experiences wholeness, the sense of unity with the all, the very state that represents the philosopher's stone. The ancients knew that mind and body must be in sync for transmutation to occur. It is not enough to merely understand alchemical philosophy. It must be applied within the body itself. The chemical balance of the body reflects the balance of the spirit. That's why an alchemist does not ignore the signs of their body. They understand that nutrition, sleep, breath, and movement are essential parts of the great work. A body that is toxic, overstimulated by artificial inputs, and lacking vitality makes the transmutation of consciousness far more difficult. Are you ready to cross the portals? The journey of the great work has led the alchemist through the 3 portals. Nigredo shattered the old identity. Albedo purified and reorganized the mind, and Rubedo manifested the true essence. But where does this journey lead? What is the final result of transmutation? The ancient alchemists call this achievement the Philosopher's Stone. Unlike what many believe, this stone is not a physical object, nor a hidden substance locked away in secret laboratories. It is a state of consciousness, a level of existence where matter and spirit become one. The true transmutation was never about turning lead into gold. It was always about transforming yourself, refining the raw essence until only the inner gold remains. The path to the Philosopher's Stone is not a mystery reserved for a chosen few, but it also cannot be reached without effort. It demands deep internal work, a total purification of the mind, body, and spirit. But how do you reach the stone? How do you bring alchemy into real life? Practical steps to build your Philosopher's Stone. Deep self-knowledge. Every transmutation begins with observation. Knowing yourself is the first step. What are your repeating patterns? What are your fears? What illusions still imprison you? Write, meditate, observe. The Philosopher's Stone can only be found by those who look within. Mental and emotional purification. During Nigredo, everything that no longer serves you must be dissolved. Limiting beliefs, traumas, destructive behaviors, everything must be burned in the fire of consciousness. Practices such as reframing traumas, self-observation, and forgiveness are essential in this process. Discipline and continuous learning. Albedo brings clarity, but that clarity must be nurtured. Study and practice go hand in hand. Read about alchemy, Hermetic philosophy, spirituality, and psychology. The Philosopher's Stone does not appear overnight. It is built through knowledge and application. Practical application of knowledge. Rubedo only happens when knowledge stops being theory and becomes action. Living consciously, transforming your reality, applying wisdom in daily life, this is the true gold of alchemy. alignment between body, mind, and spirit. The alchemist understands that their own body is a sacred vessel. Balanced nutrition, movement, conscious breathing, hormonal balance, all of these directly influence mental and spiritual states. The Philosopher's Stone cannot manifest in a fragmented body. Total balance is the key. The great truth about the Philosopher's Stone is this: it cannot be found outside because it has always been inside. No other alchemist can hand it to you. No book, no teaching, no philosophy can replace it. It is a process, an inner achievement, a state of being that cannot be lost or stolen. The alchemist who finds the Philosopher's Stone becomes the gold itself. Now you understand the true meaning of the 3 portals of alchemy. They are not empty symbols, nor abstract metaphors. They represent real processes of inner transformation. But there is one essential question. Do you accept the call? If this journey has found you, it was not by accident. Alchemy has always been reserved for those who are ready to awaken. What to do next? Commit to your transmutation. No real change happens without intention and effort. Set aside time each day to refine your consciousness and align yourself with your evolution. Recognize where you are in the process. Are you still in Nigredo, facing your shadows? Or have you entered Albedo, seeking clarity? Maybe you are approaching Rubedo, ready to manifest your new reality. Identify your stage and work on it consciously. Learn to read the signs. Alchemy teaches that nothing happens by chance. Life always reflects our internal state. The challenges that arise, the coincidences, the unexpected events, everything is a reflection of your transmutation. Integrate alchemy into your daily life. Meditation, contemplation, visualization practices, reflective writing, studying nature's cycles, all of these strengthen the alchemical process. Transmutation does not happen only inside the inner laboratory. It must be lived. The portals are always open, but no one can cross them for you. The decision is yours. The great work is in your hands. The journey through the 3 portals is not a path for those looking for shortcuts. It requires dedication, courage, and discipline. But those who cross know the effort is worth it. What happens when you complete the great work? You learn to transform challenges into growth. You awaken to a level of consciousness where limitation no longer exists. You realize that you have always had the power to shape your reality. The alchemical gold is not outside. It has always been within you. The portals are open. The choice is yours. Before you go, something important is waiting for you. I've left 2 essential book recommendations pinned in the comments for those who want to deepen their studies on alchemy. If you truly want to learn more and start this transformation, don't miss them. And for those who want to support the channel and help keep this knowledge alive, just click the link in the first pinned comment. Your support is incredibly important in allowing us to continue bringing this kind of content. See you in the next video.